Hi there, Elliot from Edmonds Community College here again with our next mindfulness meditation. I will talk just briefly today about anxiety and kind of having an anxious or busy mind and trying to start meditating or developing a mindfulness practice. One of the kind of traditional images in Buddhist texts and in iconic art and different things is sort of the monkey, and the monkey mind is described as the mind that is distracted and running to different things. Sometimes when we're feeling either acutely anxious or just kind of like have a lot of anxious energy just generally in our bodies, our mind will jump around a lot. And if that's something you're experiencing, as it is often something I'm experiencing, settling into a meditative place, settling into our bodies, being here in this grounded moment can feel super difficult. This is a really normal response. It goes all the way back thousands of years in the literature, where people and our minds wander, and that's kind of what we do well, especially when we're feeling unsafe or uncertain. Our minds are jumping around looking for different places to land to give us a sense of security, a sense of safety. So first, let me just validate that that's a really normal place to be. Right now, we're going through the COVID-19 pandemic, and there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of unresolved feelings. So when we start to meditate, that's hard. It's hard to deal with. A couple of tips and pointers, and then we'll jump into a meditation to kind of work with anxiety. But one thing I find really helpful is kind of understanding that this is a practice that builds over time. Even though it can feel uncomfortable to jump in an anxious moment into trying to meditate, it can actually be really helpful to start to kind of build that off-ramp out of your anxious cycle and into something a little bit more restful. Also, thinking of a meditative practice as a moment of rest. You will have time, you will have space outside of your meditation practice for your mind to do all of the problem solving it's trying to do. But just thinking like, hey, this is my 5 minutes, 10 minutes to let this part of my brain take a break, take a rest. In the actual meditation itself, when your mind starts to wander, you can notice it. Notice what you're feeling, notice where the thought is going. It's like, oh, interesting, I keep thinking about work, or I keep thinking about schoolwork, or this relationship I'm in. And once you develop that kind of noticing, like, oh, that's a thought over there, then you can kind of allow that thought to go. You can kind of open your hands and let it go. It might keep coming back. That's okay. The practice of letting go is actually really valuable. And when you let go, having something to come back to, which traditionally is the breath, is kind of a grounding practice. So, thought comes up, you notice the thought, maybe you've been sitting for 5 minutes and didn't notice the thought and you just notice it, that's okay. You let go of the thought, let go of trying to problem solve or analyze at all, and focus on your breath. Focus on what it feels like to breathe in your nose or in your chest or in your kind of diaphragm. And as you practice that, that will become easier and easier. So I will jump in here. We'll do a 5-minute meditation with the bell, and it will focus on kind of breaking out of an anxious pattern into noticing and coming back to our breath. Okay, thanks. Feel free to check out any of the links in the description below, or leave any comments, questions you have as well. Thanks. Allow your focus to go to the sound of the bell as it fades. And before you start kind of trying to take any deep breaths, just notice what your body feels like right now. Notice maybe if your breathing is shallow in this moment, if you're having trouble breathing, maybe readjusting your posture a little bit, sitting up straight. And as you put your attention onto your breath, maybe in your chest or your stomach if you need some grounding, or up towards your nose if you're kind of wanting to wake up a little bit. Just notice how your breath naturally slides into a rhythm of in and out as you focus on it. Allow the in and the out to become what fills your awareness, your attention. For me, I often notice my breath in my kind of upper chest, and that is kind of my main grounding location. Feeling the expanding, and as I breathe out, letting my attention go with it, relaxing, kind of releasing energy. Try to just, even for a breath or two, really notice what it feels like so that you can get a little bit of a memory of your breath, which we'll use as we kind of break out of an anxious cycle. As you sit, your mind might be darting around to problem solving or thinking about different things from the day. Once again, that's natural. Try to just notice that that's a thought. Notice that some part of you is anxious, but there's also this part of you sitting here noticing, creating a little bit of space between you and that anxiety. Continue breathing in and out, noticing as thoughts come up, kind of holding them in awareness, but then also doing that work of letting them go, watching them kind of flow away as you go back to that focus, that memory of what your breath feels like. Try to remember that this is a practice, that none of us are immediately good at this, and that we all need to continue working, continue developing this return. I like to go out in the woods and go hiking sometimes. It's so good to do here in Washington. And one thing that I've seen a lot of is if people walk in one spot over and over and over again, it develops a really strong path that's easy to follow later. Sometimes our anxious cycles are like walking in a circle in the grass. We've developed a very circle pattern that feels stuck. And this practice, shifting back to an awareness of your breath, is like stepping outside of that circle and carving a new path, walking back and forth, becoming easier as you go. Right now, we're focusing on having this awareness in the meditation space, but you can also notice, can kind of become aware of the anxious part of you and let that energy go in any activity you do during the day. Go ahead and come back to your breath once more, maybe a little bit more deeply. Allowing the sound of the bell to kind of bring you out of meditation and back into the room where you are. Thank you for this time. Feel free to practice this just with a timer. I'm going to put a link to a really great app in the description below where you can kind of create timers of different lengths. And I will see you soon.